Okay, so this book is going to talk about how information systems are used in organizations, in particular with a view to business processes. That's the important word. So the basic outline of what's going on in the chapter, or what's going on in this PowerPoint, it's going to talk about particular business processes, and it's going to talk about information technology, how it takes advantage, how they each take advantage of each other. It talks about kind of the reason for the development of this different view, kind of a new way of looking at what happens in a business. Okay, and one of the big issues in the last 10, 15, 20 years is global competition. And then you've been hearing, well, actually you probably haven't been hearing about it because the information revolution kind of started when you were in grade school. So you grew up with the information revolution. But when I first started teaching here, I was one of the only teachers who used the internet. There was like 3 teachers on the whole campus, and I was the only one in the College of Business. That was one of the reasons they hired me, to help show other teachers how to use the internet, which back then was kind of hard to use because it was all text-based. You didn't click on things. You had to type in commands and addresses and so on. But anyway, the information revolution has been going on since about the about the 90s, and it's pretty much in full swing now. They talk about what we hope that when you graduate, by the time you graduate, you will be more qualified to be a knowledge worker. A knowledge worker, I think, according to the book, is just someone who uses information technology to help do their job well. Okay, then it's going to focus on what some of the key business processes are. Someone tell me, a volunteer, Cortavius, tell me what basically happens in a business. Let's just pick a business that makes a simple product. Well, it doesn't have to be a simple product. What happens, say, in a auto manufacturing business? Just a basic thing that happens. They make car parts. Somebody makes car parts. And what else? So they put the parts together. They assemble the parts. Now they have a car, an assembled car. And then what happens? Okay, they check the quality and they do testing. So now they have the finished product. It's ready to. Okay, so what happens next? Send them out to the dealership. Okay, and then what does the dealer do? Okay. So you did name the major things. Someone manufactures it in a factory, and then it goes to a seller, and then it is hopefully sold to a customer. Okay, there's a whole lot more that goes on. Basically, that's kind of I said a simple example, but that involved a manufacturer and a reseller. But how about a product that is just made and sold? So basically you have to get the parts. Now, you don't make the parts, somebody else makes the parts. And then you put it together and then you sell it. And of course, all during these various steps, information or data are gathered. See, I said data are gathered. And that becomes, hopefully, as Brian said, that becomes when you get enough data, you can get information out of that. Data is just what? Like a name, address, phone number, and that doesn't really give you much information. But if you have a list of 1,000 customers and you put those in alphabetical order, now you have information. You have the data that's sorted alphabetically by name, and it's much more useful. And if you have 100,000 names, you better sort them or you never find somebody. So that information is data that's been processed. But a lot of people use the word information and data kind of synonymously. Basically, a business gets the materials, they make the materials, and then they sell the materials. Does anyone remember the fancy words that our book uses for those 3 things? Get something, you make something. Well, of course, there's input, then there's some other steps, and you end up with output. That's correct. And no matter what it is, there's some kind of inputs, and then there's the output. But there's a couple of, there's 3 terms. Are they on here? I think they come on a later slide. Does anyone remember? procurement, fulfillment. Well, fulfillment comes last, kind of. Okay, there's procurement, production, and fulfillment. So procure, I have to get the materials, put them in my warehouse, make the thing, that's production, and then I sell it, that's fulfillment. So you get it, you make it, or you get stuff, you make a product, and then you sell the product. Simple, but then there's a whole lot of other little processes. But remember those three terms, and this chapter is going to focus on those quite a bit. So that's what they're talking about, key business processes: procure, produce, fulfill. It used to be that when we studied businesses and business courses in college or wherever, you talked about looking at an organization by functions. Now, most of you probably have a major. Well, some of you are general business majors, but some of you are marketing majors, right? Some of you are management majors. We have accounting majors, CIS majors. If you think about majors, it's kind of the same things in a company as function. You work in a marketing department, or you work in the sales department, or you work in the warehouse, or you work in purchasing. You work in some particular area. That's a functional area. This will be explained a little bit more as we go through the PowerPoint. It talks about how things forever were done paper-based. Every time you had to, if you wanted if the warehouse guy wanted more stuff, more of a particular item for his warehouse, he would have to do a purchase request, and then that would go to the purchasing department, and they would create a purchase order. It's all done on paper. Some companies still have a lot of paper, but they're trying more and more to do away with paper. The really big companies hardly use paper at all. It's pretty much paperless, at least these basic processes. So then we talk about the processes within these functional systems, in the warehouse system, in the purchasing system, in the accounting department. And then it talks about how enterprise systems have grown and developed. An enterprise system is just an application, but a huge, complicated, complex application that has lots and lots and lots of parts to it. An enterprise means the whole corporation. Rather than just the accounting department, it's everything in the corporation, regardless of what the corporation does. That's an enterprise system. And you'll see this term, well, you see ES, enterprise system, or you see ERP, which is enterprise resource planning. And it's just a term for a very complex piece of software, SAP being one of them. There's other companies, Oracle, other big companies. PeopleSoft is another big company. But we're going to kind of focus on SAP because that's what our textbook does. So then it talks about how IT comes into play. I mean, of course, SAP is a piece of information technology, it's software, but how collecting data and information helps businesses become more efficient and more effective. Have you ever read a textbook, a business textbook, that doesn't use those two words in the first chapter? Effective, efficient. Effective, efficient. That's our favorite words. Then it talks about how enterprise systems are used in organizations, then how it affects these functional areas.